And I did mention last week at the end, all throughout the program, about tonight. Very, very excited to have two guests with us this evening, two gentlemen involved with a piece of work that is an incredible piece of work, the Urantia book. Now, the Urantia book is, has a history in and of itself and a lot of important information in it. And I really wanted to cover this subject of the book for quite some time. Problem is, someone in my position to get through such an encyclopedia of work and then present it in a literate way for so many, it proved to be very difficult. But I was very, very lucky to find two very willing gentlemen here, Derek Grimm and Peter Webb. Now, they're both in the studio with me this evening. Good evening, Derek. How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Good,
Happy
good.
to be here.
Very good. And Peter Webb, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Benjamin.
How are you
Good to be
blokes
here.
tonight? You all right?
Yeah,
Very good,
thank you.
very good. Now, you did mention, Derek, you've been on the radio before?
Yeah, several years ago.
You've done it before. We were just running through there before we came on with all the pros and cons of how to do what we do on the radio, and these gentlemen look like pretty cool cats, so I think we should be fine tonight. Now, I didn't even want to begin really without basically handing it over to you guys. I wanted to talk first about what the Urantia book is, but just before that, if you wouldn't mind, you gentlemen are you're part of a study group, is it? Is that how you described it?
Yes, yeah, that's the fundamental, I guess you could say, organizational structure of the Urantia book and how people practice or get together to read it and study it.
Wonderful. And so let's do it. What is the Urantia book? Go right ahead, Derek or Peter, or take it away.
All right. Well, I guess the basic and short explanation is that it's a new and expanded revelation of universal truth to our planet.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell. It's a mouthful, but that's what it is.
Okay.
That's the best way to explain it.
Now, this book, it is a book,
Yeah.
and it is. I mentioned it was encyclopedic because it is gargantuan read. It's 1,000 pages, is it, or some such?
2096, I think it is. Yeah.
2096,
Yeah.
and I mean that's incredible. And the words on my book, at least, are very small. The print is very fine, so there's a lot of words scrawled on there. And when was it introduced to the world, this book?
The publishing date was 1955, but there was a huge process that took place before then. Probably, I'd say about a 25 year long process that took place before the book was actually published.
Okay, so the book was published and it was introduced in 1955. Do you have any information about how it was received when it was I'm not sure, because there is a little bit of mystery around the introduction of this book. Can you describe a little bit more about that? Or
Yeah, there is mystery surrounding it, and it's purposeful. The whole idea is that no one person be connected to the book, such as a Paul or a Calvin or a Wesley or someone like that.
Mm-hmm.
The personalities who wrote the papers that are in the book are very adamant that they want the message to stand on its own.
Mm-hmm.
So people who read the book should judge what's in the book based on the message and not who wrote it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a very important point we were talking about before we came on air, this idea that the information often produced by great artists or great writers or whatever is often judged by the connection with the person involved who wrote it, not necessarily about how good the work is.
That's
And
right.
this is something I think that has characterized humanity for a long time. I mean, stunning example sticks out in my mind straight away is the Bible. It's the Christian Bible, the Catholic Bible, whatever you want to call it, various versions throughout history. Though the work itself was a compilation through various authors or various scribes at different times, none particularly ascribed or attached to the era when, for instance, this figure Jesus Christ was supposedly around. Some 500 years, I've heard some estimates after the fact, that, for instance, some of these Gospels were scribed. If you can imagine that idea, that a lot of people, I think, only give the work merit because of its attachment to a certain figure, an important person, a messiah, if you would, a teacher, whatever you want to call them. But few people realise that a lot of these instances, they can be compilations of work, or they can be brought about through people of no particular stature or global presence. And yet at the same time, the message can be incredibly pertinent and important.
Exactly.
I mean, would you agree with that?
I would totally agree. Yeah, yeah.
So that's part of the reason, again, why I thought it's so important to get this information on the radio about the Urantia book. So what do you think? Shall we start straight into some of the work? I will preface this interview with one other thing. For those of you who are, how can I describe, maybe more religiously inclined, people who have set belief structures, Buddhists, Christians or Catholics, Protestants, people who follow the Torah or the Talmud, all these things. Is this Urantia book, this work, is this ascribed or connected to any religion?
Well, it's not a religion per se. Okay, what it does is it builds on the religious heritages of the past and present, I guess. But what it does is it encourages a personal living religious faith, which I think is a little bit different than a lot of what's out there at the moment.
We talked again when I met with you gentlemen before, and we were talking a little bit about the difference between religion and spirituality. Yeah. And I think this is an important differentiation to make. What I believe and what I understand from my studies of this particular book is it ascribes to more of a spiritual whole, or in essence an idea of a spirituality of the entirety of mankind and even beyond this planet, rather than a doctrinal set of beliefs in which one would follow and one would live their life by. I mean, do you think that would be more accurate than describe it as simply, a religious text?
I think it's more than even that. I mean,
okay.
it explains everything.
Yeah.
Every question I've ever had, the answer is right in there, and that's what totally blows me away.
And a few questions you never had.
There's questions in there that I've never thought even to ask at all. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do this. Let's dive right in. We're 15 minutes past the hour, and I'm worried we're going to run out of time even before we get to the nitty-gritty. As I mentioned before, we talked about this encyclopedic book. It's so huge. These gentlemen, Derek and Peter, were very kind enough to go through with me before the show, and we decided to focus on certain topics rather than the entirety of the piece, because it's just too incredibly all-encompassing to cover in a measly 2-hour set. So we decided on 5 or 6 topics. We're going to do our very best to get through some of these topics. So put your feet up and I'll put on the kettle, because we've got some incredible information to follow. Now, what was the one we were going to start with? Were we going to delve a bit more into what exactly your Urantia book is?
Sure, we can, talk about that a bit. Yeah.
Well, yeah. What's some of the topics are covered in the Urantia book. It explains in quite vivid detail God, cosmology, the origin and destiny of mankind, life after death, the history of our planet, both spiritual and physical, and a detailed account of the life of teachings of Jesus. And it stands as a masterpiece, and it synthesises history, religion and science in just a beautiful tapestry. It just blends each of those topics successfully.
I think as well, interesting aspect, you talk about the Urantia book, especially, and this is already jumping out at me, and I guess might be on a few of the listeners' minds. The fact that it deals with the life of Jesus Christ is an interesting topic to me, because a lot of people attribute this person, and I would imagine that most religions obviously are aware of this guy, this Jesus Christ figure being, whether it be a prophet or a teacher, some refer to him as an ascended master, relative to however you might describe him, the teachings were pretty far-reaching, and they really did affect the planet for the next 2,000 years. What's important to differentiate, I think, again, because people think, oh, Jesus Christ, they might think, well, we've got a Bible already. This has already been dealt with. They covered this. You guys have missed the boat. 1955. They've been talking about this for the last 1,500 years. But I can't help but think of another text that has come out semi-recently that was uncovered that dealt as well with Jesus Christ in certain aspects, the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, they're not necessarily attributed to the Bible. They're not necessarily connected, even though the research is ongoing. But the effect of the information was seminal work of a different nature, but it talked in bits and pieces about Jesus Christ. And it still lends a lot of value and worth and integrity to the life of this man, even though it's not from the Bible. And I would consider, again, the Urantia book to be a similar entity to something like the Dead Sea Scrolls, in that it's not necessarily connected to the Bible. It does deal with the man in certain aspects of the book, and it does a sterling job of reenacting a lot of the parts of his life that really were impactful on this planet. Which is really fantastic. I think it's important that people understand that, because the Urantia book can offer so much more about information that maybe was lacking in the Bible or in other religious texts. I mean, do you think that's accurate?
I think very much so. I'd like us to expand on this a little bit further into the conversation.
Absolutely.
But the last third of the book is all on the life and teachings of Jesus as the man and also as God. And there is a distinction there, and that's, I think we'd like to flesh that out a little bit before we jump right into it.
Because that's one of our topics this evening. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit. I'm excited. I'm going back and forth here. No, I mean, that was a fairly straightforward introduction there to the life of the Urantia book, and considering it's 2,000 pages long, you've succinctly closed it up in a few sentences. It's very good.
There's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, there is.
Really
there is.
Yes.
Okay. Are we going to move on to the next topic, or do you have more to talk about that?
I guess one of the most important topics, and the way that the book itself is structured is sort of opposite to the way a human being really sort of tackles the subject. Usually what we try to do is get the detail and expand from there outwards, intellectually speaking. This basically starts with the large and comes back down to the small. And in doing so, it really gives you a much bigger and clearer picture of how everything is connected. And so the first several papers in the Urantia book concern God and the Eternal Son and the Infinite Spirit, or the Paradise Trinity.
Okay.
So that's probably what we're going to try and do our best to explain.
Let's do our best with that. You mentioned it's starting in a more generalized way and then specifying towards the latter stages of the book.
Not general so much as large and cosmic.
Yeah.
I guess is maybe a better way to explain that, because there's no general. It's very detailed and very specific.
Okay.
And there's just so much information. It's just.
All right, let's do it then. Come on, where are we going first?
Well, the Paradise Trinity.
What is this? What is this thing?
The Trinity itself obviously isn't an overly new idea. I mean, Christianity has the Trinity, but it's depicted a little bit differently in the Urantia book. Basically, we have the Universal Father, or God the Universal Father, God the Eternal Son, and God the Infinite Spirit. And the reason I'm saying God all the time is because they're actually one. And this is really hard to wrap your head around.
Okay.
But they're individual personalities, but they are one.
Okay.
Okay.
So, can I just forgive me. I'm gonna just to pull apart these ideas, because these are far-reaching ideas that then take a little bit to get the mind around. So one of the things, this is a Paradise Trinity. This is the idea of a version of God, as we know the word, as we know the term. But the thing is, I think that's important to differentiate. When people talk about God, generally speaking, they do so in a way that it's hard to kind of encompass this idea of a God out there so far away, and yet all-encompassing all life as we know it, and somehow intimately linked to one planet and these little humans on it. But this book does that. It attempts to do that, and I think it does it very well. but it's not necessarily this paradise Father and this paradise Trinity is not necessarily what people might refer to as one man, for instance, Jesus Christ. It's not necessarily this one person. In the Urantia book, the paradise Father and Trinity is far above and beyond most concepts we have of what God is, isn't it?
Oh, that's what this is. It's a new expanded revelation that totally expands your understanding of God as you study it, because it's just so much more than we've been given before.
Okay, can we expand then further again into the paradise Trinity then?
Okay. Well, if we take a look at God, the universal Father, first of all.
Right. What is this thing?
Yeah. He's the first source and center of all things, spiritual and physical, I guess is the first way to talk about him. He's infinite, without beginning or end. Without end is pretty easy to understand, I guess, wrap your head around. I have a lot of trouble wrapping my head around no beginning, because you're always thinking, well, what happened before that?
No timeline.
Before that, right?
Yeah.
But he is infinite, without beginning or end, and that's something that we're just, as we become more spiritually evolved throughout the ages, that's something that hopefully we'll be able to figure out and understand. He resides on the Isle of Paradise, which is something that we'll get into hopefully.
Are we talking about
later.
Tahiti or?
It sounds a little
bit
strange.
further away.
The Isle of Paradise is basically the center of everything.
Okay.
Okay, and like I said, we're planning to describe the whole structure of the universe as well.
Okay.
And
in 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, 10 or 15 minutes. But just for now, that's where he is eternally present.
Okay.
On this Isle of Paradise, at the center of all things.
Okay.
He has sent forth the call, and this is not new news, but he has sent forth the call to all God-knowing creatures in all the universes. And we're not just talking about our planet, we're talking about every planet with evolving mortals.
Well, I think we can guarantee that far, because even the scientists admit the idea that millions and billions of habitable planets out there. So I don't think we're destructing the creationist view or anything like that.
We actually have numbers for you.
You have numbers. Fantastic. Hit me. And with the decimal points, if you could.
Not decimal points. That's involved in administrative structure of inhabited worlds and things like that.
Hit me.
But his call is to all of these evolving creatures is to be you perfect as I am perfect. I'm sure many people have heard that. And that is actually our destiny. Okay, that is what we will be striving for.
Towards perfection.
Yeah, this is not just until we die. This is after we die and go on through this paradise ascension career that we're going to be talking about as well.
Okay.
Okay. You mentioned before that it's hard to picture God being way out there in the center of the universe and then we being out here on this lonely little planet and stuff. But the interesting thing that we've been told is that what he actually does is for each evolving creature that has the capacity to know God, the intellectual and spiritual capacity to know God, which is pretty much everybody on this planet, the Universal Father bestows upon all of us what is called a father fragment, or there's many different names for it. But basically, he bestows a part of himself on each person. So we actually have God living within us.
Right.
Okay? So when we're trying to connect with God, it's not you shouldn't picture God being way in the center of the
separation.
Universe. God is actually within you.
Right.
And you can commune with God through meditation and prayer and all these kind of things within you. He's a part of you. So that's a very, very powerful.
There's so many kind of not paradoxes, but ideas that are represented in this book that it's kind of so difficult for minds like ours that are quite dense to picture this idea to have separation from a thing but have total unity with a thing at the same time. It's concept that I think if people would sit down and, for lack of a better word, meditate or think on, to just try and consider or wrap your mind around a concept of a being or a thing or an entity or whatever you want to give this God that we know, and consider that it's everything and everywhere, everyone, without time, without space, without form, almost, because it's all forms and no form. It's a potential. It's like a pregnant field of infinite potential, and then to try and label it, you just trying to. It's like with a blindfold and putting, hitting a piñata. It's just really difficult to hit on the head.
Yeah.
But this book does that.
That's right. And when you're given such a detailed and advanced, I guess is a good word, explanation of it all, it's still like, I've been studying 20 years, and how long have you, Peter?
Over 30, yeah.
30 years, yeah. And some of it is still really hard to comprehend. Yeah. So
I think it's an evolving thing. I think every time you read it and you start again, you've gained that much more experience in life.
Can I ask how many times you've read it?
I've lost count.
Really?
Yeah. As soon as I finish, I start again.
My gosh. No,
I do read other things in the meantime.
No, absolutely. But you would gain a lot just from reading that book. But it's just so big. I need to take it in chunks. I take it in chunks. I go away and I sit, and then go back for more chunks. And I just can't read it through. It's too much. But yeah, no. Please continue. I am interrupted.
When I first got the book from a friend of mine in university, I actually took the book and read it straight through in 3 days.
No way. That's impossible. I don't believe this guy.
That's amazing.
That's true.
I don't think
he slept.
No.
I was at the
2,000 pages.
At the time, I was a voracious reader of anything spiritual or religious.
Do you speed read?
No.
You know that browsing technique where they...
I know. That's all I did for 3 days was I just read the book.
Well, you wouldn't have slept or ate either.
Well, I was snacking while I was eating and that sort of stuff. But I just couldn't put it down. There was just so much information in there.
Yeah.
It was just ringing truth bells, I guess, is a good way to explain it, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah. So
let's get back to this paradise.
So
Trinity.
That I guess is God the universal Father, and that's how he sort of relates to each individual person in the universe. God the eternal Son, and I guess we can make the distinction is that the eternal Son is not Jesus.
Okay.
Most of Christianity has sort of confused that concept.
Okay.
We'll explain a little bit later who Jesus exactly is, but the eternal Son is also resident on the Isle of Paradise with the universal Father.
Okay.
The eternal Son and the universal Father are one.
Okay.
So the Son is of the Father, even though they are
That's
eternal.
usually the way. Yeah.
Well, they have to use philosophical concepts in order to explain all of this, because we can't think outside of time and space. Our intellects just can't do it.
No.
But the eternal Son is of the Father. So I think it's a saying attributed to Jesus himself, saying, whosoever has seen the Son has seen the Father. Well, logically, because the Son is of the Father, that's pretty literally true, isn't it? Yeah, so who has ever seen the Son has seen the Father.
Right.
Because the Son is of the Father.
Okay.
He is the original and only begotten Son of God.
Okay.
But Jesus is somebody different.
Right.
Okay.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we can get to that.
Yeah.
Jesus is very, very important, okay, but he's not the eternal Son.
Okay.
Okay. Both the Father and Son are perfect and changeless, as you would suspect, but each expresses themselves differently. Okay, so when the Father wants to express himself, he does so through the Son, and the Son is the living and divine Word of God. So the Father, he expresses himself through. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, everything that you say, admittedly, and I wouldn't be surprised if we had a few questions after this, the same, but 20 questions for everything you say. 20 questions immediately.
No doubt. Yeah, I can totally
But I'm biting my tongue because we're halfway through the hour already.
We've spent a lot of time trying to make this really succinct. So.
Yeah.
I think just to interrupt for a sec, one of the interesting things about the book is every time you come up with a question, usually by reading the next paragraph, it
takes you where you need to go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The Universal Father is, I guess, first a creator and a controller. The Eternal Son is at first a co-creator because he's of the Father. And then he's a divine administrator of the spiritual government of the whole created universe.
Okay.
So as we said before, a fragment of the Father actually resides or indwells each of us. But the Spirit of the Son actually bathes all creation and draws us to God.
Okay. So who's doing the drawing? The Father is not. It's the Son who does the drawing.
The Father expresses himself through the Son.
Okay.
He bestows the Father fragments on all of us.
Yeah.
But in actual expressing of himself, he always does so through the Son.
Okay.
But the two work forever as one for our spiritual advancement in those specific ways.
All right.
Okay. So that kind of hopefully gives you a little bit of an idea of the Eternal Son. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the third person of deity would be God the Infinite Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
The Infinite Spirit is of the Father and the Son.
Okay.
Obviously, the Infinite Spirit is equally changeless and perfect. I guess the best way to describe the Infinite Spirit would be that, as I said before, the Father expresses himself through the personality of the Son, and that the Son is the Word of God, but the Father acts through the personality of the Infinite Spirit. So the Son is the Word of God, and the Infinite Spirit is the actions of God. That'd be about right.
Yeah. It's a bit of a hard concept to grapple with the Infinite Spirit.
It's the ultimate concept, I think. This one really, everything flows out from this one idea.
That's
I think
right.
if you can grapple this one, you can grapple mostly what follows.
I think we'll get into the Holy Spirit later on, but the Infinite Spirit is similar to Jesus and the Eternal Son. They're a different concept.
Okay. All right.
So to boil it down, I guess, God the Father loves men, created,
beings,
beings. God the Eternal Son serves men.
Okay.
And God the Infinite Spirit inspires us to find God.
Okay. That's very good.
Okay. Is
That's very good. That's fantastic.
Okay.
We need to go to ad break. Can we?
Okay, beauty. That's good because we've pretty much hopefully covered
that topic. Yeah. That's good. We're only 35 past the hour. That's brilliant.
Sweet.
Okay, you're listening to Source 107.9 FM, Radio Fremantle. You're on the line with Benjamin here. We have special guests Derek Grimm and Peter Webb, two fantastic gentlemen who've graciously come onto the program here to talk about very, very interesting topic. You ran to your book, a seminal piece of work that we're going to get into further on just after this short commercial break. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
When a loved one passes away, the personalised services of Hetherington Funerals are always available to reduce the anxiety at that crucial time. As a fiercely independent Christian-based family business, Hetherington Funerals will ensure your every wish is met in a caring and thoughtful way. Station sponsor, Hetherington Funerals. Our family caring for your family. Call us anytime on 9459 2846. That's 9459 2846.
Station sponsor.
107.9 FM.
Nobody does it better. Nobody does it better.
107.9 FM, Radio Fremantle, The Source. We're back on with Derek Grimm and Peter Webb talking about the Urantia book. Now, we do need to go through all the things we do normally need to go through on the radio program, but we're going to try and keep things chuffing along because we really do want to cover a few things this evening, and so we're gonna move straight ahead with that. Now, gentlemen, please, if you would, where are we moving on to next about this Urantia book?
What happens when you die, and the Father's ascension plan.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I want to know. Hit me. Let's do it.
Hit you? Can't reach that far.
Okay. It's lucky for me.
I guess in the previous segment we were talking about God has sent out the call to be you perfect as I am perfect.
Right.
And the way in which we're required to do this is through his ascension program.
Right.
Or plan. This involves, I guess one way to explain it would be one of the reasons why I left my own faith, which was Catholicism, was I had a really hard time with the problem of eternity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your image of what happens when you die, you know, everybody's sort of image is you just go up and kind of sit on a cloud after you get into the pearly gates, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's all of eternity, right?
Yeah.
I had a really big problem with that, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me, and that's one of the reasons I started searching for other truths.
Yeah.
This makes a lot more sense, because to go through this ascension plan that the Father has created for us is going to take absolute ages and ages, universe ages to get through. And the purpose of it is to slowly, through experience and, well, basically experience and learning, to drag ourselves up from flesh and bone to actually perfect spiritual beings. And this is not something that happens when you die.
I have to admit, I did have that problem myself. That was a pretty big deciding factor. There's aspects of my religious upbringing that didn't make sense, and that was one of them as well. This idea that when we die, the Jesus Christ down on the white horse out of the clouds sweep us up, and it sounds wonderful. But then the idea of what happens after that, which is kind of left unspoken and unsaid, this idea that everyone's seated around a table maybe afterwards and talk about for the next, for infinity on how wonderful they had a time of their one lifetime. And it kind of left a lot of questions and didn't make a lot of sense.
Very undeveloped
ideas.
Cosmology, I think.
Yeah. And this is the one thing that it really delved into. So the idea is basically, and it makes a lot of sense, as you identified the fragment of ourselves that comes from this Paradise Father, this oneness that we have with him, or this aspect of himself in everybody.
Yes.
If this guy is a formless, shapeless, infinite, and our entire reality, it would make sense then that even if this mortal body or this flesh vessel that eventually dies or stops working or functioning, that fragment would continue on. It wouldn't pass away or would stop. It would cease to be. It would continue on in a new form or a new aspect of the Paradise Father. That makes logic sense to me.
Yes.
And if it doesn't take a giant leap of faith to go in that direction. You can logically reason that it's within our capacity to do that. And again, I'm sorry, I'm just going to shut up now, but it does. It makes sense, and it lends to the material because it's much more of a logical explanation as to the possibilities of what lies after this particular round.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Please continue.
So actually, when we do die on mortal death, I guess we could call it, we're actually resurrected on special worlds, and these worlds are located at our system headquarters.
Okay, you're going to have to really explain yourself on these ones.
A system, which we'll get into a little bit later, but just a quick explanation, is a system is an administrative grouping of approximately 1,000 inhabited worlds.
Okay.
Okay.
These are all described in the Urantia book. This cosmology
Yes,
here.
all this whole cosmology is laid out, bit by bit.
Bit by bit.
Yeah.
Section by section.
Section by section.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I said, we're resurrected on special worlds located at our system headquarters.
When
okay?
resurrected, you mean what?
Okay. What constitutes resurrection is when we die, our thought adjusters, or father fragments,
Fragments of the one Father.
of the
right?
Father.
Yep.
These fragments retain our personality and our memories and our experiences.
Okay.
Okay. Our guardian angels actually hold in trust our souls.
Okay. We have guardian angels.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And those are spoken at in great length.
Okay.
Spoken of in great length. And when the thought adjuster and the soul recombine on this system headquarters into a new body, this is what constitutes a resurrection.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
That makes sense. Uh huh. Yep.
So yeah, you know that movie Avatar?
Yes.
You know when they went the blue people.
That
and
struck
the
a
other
chord
planet?
me with
Yeah.
that movie.
Yeah,
honestly.
there's actually unbelievable parallels between the Urantia book.
Did you find that?
Yeah. One thing that I always think about when you kind of dream about what it's going to be like when you resurrect on these worlds yourself.
Yeah.
I always sort of, my image of it is when he wakes up in his new avatar's body in that movie.
Yeah.
Because he's in a new body and he's, trying to get used to all these new sensations, and, it's a different planet, yeah. But yeah, that's kind of my image of it. That's a personal image. They don't talk about that in the Urantia book. But.
Yeah, the thing that throws me about the idea of where you would go afterwards is I've pictured before this idea, or this time in a timeless space, but go figure. Without a body, as a being that exists as an entity without a body, not quite like a ghost, but I imagine this idea of light, this formation, some kind, this vibration, this whatever it is, some kind of vessel, but it's not matter as we know it, and floating around with the full sentience of a being or a person or a thing in control of their whatever they are. But I always imagine that it would be light or some kind of, I can't think of anything more than maybe like a star shaped, like a star or a energy being, or it's great. It's great thinking about
It's
it.
hard to picture.
Hard
but
to
It is
picture.
fun to think about it.
But it does make sense. Okay, so we resurrect on these worlds.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to say that when we wake up on the first of these worlds, because there's 7 of them, we gain absolutely nothing. Okay? We're not all-knowing people or anything. We gain absolutely nothing but experiencing the fact of surviving.
You have to run that by me again. What was that?
we gain absolutely nothing but experiencing the fact that we have survived.
So when we die and resurrect,
Yeah.
we gain nothing but
Yeah.
that.
But the knowledge, experiencing the fact that we have survived mortal death.
Oh, okay. All right. To begin
You
with.
see, yeah.
Okay,
And
alright.
that's really the only thing. Okay?
We virtually wake up where we left off
That's right.
at the point of dying.
We're not
we haven't-
granted any wisdom or all-knowingness or anything
No?
like that.
No.
You begin on the first of these worlds exactly where you left off here on Earth.
Okay.
Intellectually and spiritually.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right, because I was under the impression that there might be some kind of remembering, or there might be some kind of fulfillment or renewal of a fuller understanding of who you are and what you are.
I think possibly we might bring over the same prejudices, the same fears, we're still the same person
Okay.
in many respects as we were when we were alive, when we're in a physical body.
Like you're scared of sharks or bees or
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it might be. I don't think there'd be any sharks or bees there, but it would,
No, but you still have those.
you'll still have those residual
remembering.
feelings
Right.
and resentments.
it's a definitely a completely different idea than ending up on a fluffy white cloud.
Yeah.
You know, fishing for
Sure.
space
Sure.
mackerel. I don't know, but the idea is it's almost unglamorous. You almost feels like you're just continuing on with something that takes a very long time, and it's just a very small facet of a very long story, and you just continue on in the direction you're headed.
I think if we're talking spiritual realities, that's a long way down the track for us.
What's a long way down the track?
In our existence.
What
For
is
each
a
one of us, well, probably millions or even billions of years.
No, what is at the end of the track? What is
Perfection.
perfection? Right. Okay. Right. It's a very long way.
That's-
yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, right now I kind of feel pretty far from perfect, and a lot of my terrible
I
habits.
think we all do.
Terrible habits that continue on bespeak that I have quite a way to go.
Well,
so I can agree with you on that. I was kind of hoping though. Do you think they give you a break?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean,
You have to
we're-
continue
we're,
on
We're
straight
pretty
away.
matter of fact about all this, but when you actually read the account in the Urantia book itself, I mean, it's inspiring. I mean, you almost kind of want to just go there now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just really inspiring. I mean, it gives you a step-by-step account of exactly what happens when you wake up on the first world. It tells you about the whole training program that you have to go through. And it really is inspiring.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it's very, it's black and white. It doesn't pull any punches. It just says, well, this is how it is. It's not how we imagine it is. These people say that this is how it's going to be for each one of us.
Okay.
And the other thing too is when we get there, they say we have a bit of a holiday for about 10 days and
Oh, really?
and have a look around.
mentions
Yeah, yeah.
That kind of
yeah.
figure, 10 days?
Yeah.
You can look up other people who have gone on before.
Yeah.
You know, and
We've
just
got to get over the
meet up with
experience of death,
anyone.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of people that I'd love to talk to. I'd like to talk to Augustus Caesar. You know, say, hey man. You know,
What
I mean,
happened?
But I mean, that's just an expanded thinking. I mean,
Yeah.
all of these people are going to be there.
Mm. And you can review your life, can't you?
Yes, you can. Yeah,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
part of your training actually,
Right.
because in reviewing your life, you learn about your own mistakes and deficiencies and all that kind of stuff, and hopefully they try and take that to a much
I mean,
higher level.
there's a few parts I'd like to revisit, and there's a few I'd probably want to just fast forward. I hope they give you the option to just,
Fast forward button.
skip that bit, skip it. Nobody can see that.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think before we have to go on, we have to address all of our deficiencies and everything that.
Yeah.
That's
Well, we have to let it go before we can move on to greater heights, I guess.
that's
We've
right.
got baggage. We're going to have to drop it off because there's
Yep.
no baggage where we're going.
Mm.
Okay, so is there more about what happens when we die? We continue on with that?
Oh, I mean, there's several papers, but basically the ascension plan is to go through the 7 training worlds on the system.
within
that I talked
within the
about.
system that we
Yeah.
we incarnate in.
Our system that our planet Urantia is in.
Okay.
I should have probably mentioned that the term Urantia is based on the universe name for our
We
planet.
didn't mention that, did we?
Yeah.
No, we should
That's a
mention
little
that.
bit important.
That is very important. Okay, yeah, let's just quickly say that now. So Urantia book, the Urantia is the word for this planet.
Urantia, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but that's the name given by system administration. Is that the official
that's
terminology?
what everybody knows our planet as.
Okay.
We call it Earth, but yeah,
Okay.
everybody else on every other world knows us as Urantia.
There is
Okay.
there's a local universe language and there's a super universe language.
And that's Urantia.
Yes.
Right, Urantia. Well, I like it. It's a nice name. Works for me.
Yeah.
Earth is good too.
It's good. It's good.
Yep.
Earth.
Yep.
Whatever we need to
the
use.
blue planet, whatever.
Okay.
Isn't Earth just another name for dirt?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So after the system, we go on to what's called a constellation. And this is all part of the administrative structure of the universe, which we're hoping to talk about in the next segment.
Yep.
But there's actually 70 training worlds on the constellation
Okay.
headquarters that we all have to progress through.
Mm-hmm.
Once we graduate from those worlds,
Mm-hmm.
we go on to the local universe level. And this is very important because the local universe is created by a very important personality. someone we call Christ Michael, and he's better known as Jesus.
Okay.
Okay, and that's where he comes in. He is actually the creator of our local universe.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, that you were mentioning it's a long journey. I
Yes.
guess you're going to get into cosmology a little later. Is that one of our topics? I can't remember.
Yeah, well,
I referred to
universe
one.
structure, cosmology, sure.
We're
yeah.
going to do that. Okay. All right. Okay. So continue on.
So yeah, on the local universe, there's actually 490 worlds that we have to go through. So there's a lot of worlds.
So there's systems, constellations, there's universes.
Yes.
Can you clarify this again? Because I'm having difficulty following myself, and I'm sure the listeners out there might be having difficulty following. So we're what's called a world, and we live within a system, and this system exists within a constellation.
Yes.
And then what's the next step up? Constellation? Do you guys know?
Local universe.
Local universe.
Yeah. And from the local, well, okay, a system has 1,000 inhabited worlds in it.
Right.
Okay. A constellation has 100 systems.
Is our system Satania? Is that the name of the system, or is
Yes.
it? It
Yeah.
is. Okay,
Yes.
great. Okay.
Okay. Constellation has 100 systems or 100,000 worlds. And when I'm saying worlds, it's not just any planet, it's an inhabited world.
Has to be inhabited. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
A local universe, which is what Michael or Jesus created, has 100 constellations, which works out to 10 million worlds.
Okay.
So he is the creator of our local universe and of our local universe of 10 million worlds.
And he's our Father. He,
Okay.
He's
he
our
created each one of
creator.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, actual creator.
Are we going into the next topic now?
Pretty much, yeah.
Did I mean to do? Because we still got a little bit of time for this segment. If you want, if there's
All right.
anything left.
Well,
on
we can go a little higher than local universe and finish the segment then if you want.
Okay, sure.
Okay. After the local universe, we go on to the minor sector training. And a minor sector consists of 100 local universes. And that's, 1 billion worlds. 1
1
billion
billion.
inhabited worlds.
1 billion.
Okay.
That's pretty huge. Okay.
A major sector comes after that, and that's 100 minor sectors. So that's 100 billion inhabited worlds. And then we get to the super universe level, and there's 10 major sectors in a super universe, and that's 1 trillion worlds. And in the whole created universe, there are 7 super universes, which comes to a grand total in the created universe of 7 trillion inhabited worlds.
Okay. All right. That's pretty big.
Yeah.
It's very interesting because I know that for some people this might be completely off the charts. No pun intended. 7 trillion worlds is off the charts. And for a lot of people, this would be challenging because this is not within their religious books. This is not in their established.
This is a new cosmology.
This is
expanded revelation.
It's
right?
I've never, and I'm not sure if your experience has been the same, gentlemen, but I've never seen such an expanded cosmic revelation as provided by the Urantia book anywhere else. And I've done a lot of research. Have you found anything
I
to
have
the
never,
extent?
and I have also been reading all my life trying to find stuff like this, and this is the only place I've ever found stuff like this.
Yeah.
So detailed and so, it's just,
Yeah.
it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting as well because I can't help but I hear it in my head. I hear the word blasphemy of many lips, and possibly some people turning off their radio dials, or at least changing it to 96.1 or something, because this information might fly in the face of accepted ideas and beliefs that a lot of people have. And they're in my experience, and I have had quite a lot of experience, especially with people who I interact with through the radio program, sometimes when these experiences go above and beyond their accepted ideas about the paradigm or the reality in which they live, it's like a switch. It's not a possibility for them to, or willingness for them to go beyond what they understand.
Oh, that's right.
And I understand that, and I understood that when I accepted this role on the radio station and decided to put on programs such as this, which really do test people's boundaries, which is fantastic for you, is fine for me. But I would strongly urge people out there listening now, if and for the majority, I'm so happy to say, so many people who listen to the radio program such open-minded individuals and really willing to entertain ideas that might be beyond their accepted paradigm, and entertain the idea that maybe there's more to the reality in which they live than they understand, which is fantastic. We're going to go to a quick break. Can I just bust in here, and can we drop a couple of links about where people can find out more about this Urantia book? Some online links.
The Urantia Foundation, which is the organization that actually publishes, they're the custodians of the book. They publish it. That's www.urantia.org, and Urantia is Urantia, as we mentioned before.
That would be the best place to start if you're interested in having a look at this information.
That's the people who publish it. Yeah, it depends kind of what you're interested in looking into. There's other sites who where, as I was speaking to you before the show, there's sites where a lot of scientists or anthropologists or whatever dig into specific parts of the book, astronomers as well, and compare what's in the book to what they're finding out today and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They'll write reports, and they'll publish it on some of these sites, and it's absolutely fascinating. Yeah. So one of those sites is squarecircles.com, all one word. It's awesome. It has a large amount of secondary works and studies based on the book. I would totally recommend that site.
Good. Yeah.
And one other site that's good as well is truthbook.com, all one word. Yeah.
Okay. They're all ones that deal in part with Urantia.
No, completely.
Completely.
They're
Great.
Urantia-based sites.
Okay,
yeah,
fantastic.
All of these are.
Special guests Derek and Peter talking about a really amazing book, the Urantia book, something that I've researched for a few years myself, and very lucky to find these gentlemen in little old Perth who were also studies the material, also part of a group that really researched this material and have agreed to come on the radio program and talk a little bit about me. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here this evening.
Our pleasure.
Now, I just had a quick question. One Marcella just wrote on the email there, just wanting to know more about where the Urantia book came from. Thank you for the question, Marcella. We didn't cover that overly much, but I believe, again, as you mentioned at the start, Derek or Peter, whoever would like to maybe answer this again, the history or the origin is quite shrouded in mystery, isn't it? It's not exactly common knowledge.
It's shrouded in mystery purposefully, because the personalities who wrote the book.
But do you know yourself?
Do I know what?
Do you know the person, whether you name them or not? Do you know whether?
Oh,
where
no. I mean, that
it's not like
there is only 7 people in history that actually knew the identity of the person that the information was coming through.
Oh, really?
And that was, yeah.
All those people have died now.
Yeah,
so
all those people have long since died, and they were
Right.
they were under a mandate from the authors of the papers themselves not to reveal the identity.
Okay.
So yeah.
And we did mention at the start, and I'm not berating Marcella for the question. It's a very good question, and it is an aspect of us as human beings. We're curious. We want to know what
That's
we're
right.
reading and where it came from.
Yeah.
But it's an important idea as well that we covered the idea that this information is it's about the information. It's not about the messenger. And I think it definitely is such a strong and perfected work that it does stand by itself without the need to be attached to any name or personality to give it credence.
That's right.
I think you'd agree with that.
Yes.
So thank you, Marcella, for the question. We don't have the definitive answer on that one, but by all means, don't let that discourage you from pursuing the work, because it is incredible.
I could venture the information that all of this did happen in Chicago at the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, throughout the whole first half of the 1900s. So.
Right. So it was over a fair few number of years that this information was taken down.
Yeah, it took a long.
it went from I'd say from about
1924.
Well, started about
24 to 35 was the process.
Yeah.
And then it was published in 1955. But
Right.
the actual
The final work was 1955 that it was released.
the
as well
actual
as,
published book was 1955.
Okay.
The actual contacts themselves, nobody knows exactly what year they started, but a lot of people are saying probably in about 1906 to 1911 they started.
Oh, okay.
The
That
actual
is
contacts
quite a lot
themselves.
of years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but nobody at that time really knew what they had.
Mm.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think I wanted to make a brief comment here, and we'll move on because you didn't finish with the ascendancy plan, the ascension plan there.
yeah.
Sorry, ascension in a way. The idea that the topics in this book we're only covering, we're really just briefly brushing over some of the topics that are involved in this incredibly large work. But the way it's written, I think you'd all both agree with me that it's a lot more complex. If you were to, again, this is my own experience, so this is why I refer to it, but I would imagine that similar religious texts are the same. If you just consider, for instance, the Bible, the way it was written and the time it was written, the way it was written, these parables, these stories, these allegories, the information was relayed or communicated in a way that was easier for people of that time to understand. For example, when you're considering the Bible or someone talking, or Jesus Christ, the person speaking in the Bible about a spaceship, if you were to describe someone who's living at that time about a spaceship, you wouldn't necessarily describe it as a creation of certain metallic alloys created under this certain process and used plasma propulsion systems which did etc. X, Y, Z. You couldn't.
No.
You might describe it as a fire in the sky, a ball of flame which shot across the sky at faster than a shooting star. And you would see something that in the Bible, and you might read it, and quite obviously people would take that information literally. And one thing I've noticed, and the Bible again is an example of my experience, but a lot of people talk about certain information in the Bible and they say, well, it's not literal. They're talking about, not only are they talking about, they're making a point or planting an idea about how you might live or think or live your life, but they might also be literally referring to things that they could not describe in any other way because people wouldn't understand it. They weren't at the educational level or the advanced civilization level to do it. What I'm saying is, what the Urantia book seems to do is, it seems to take that giant leap, as mankind has done through the industrial age and this real advancement that the civilization on this planet has taken, and said, well, now you're at this point, so now we can talk to you like older children. You were real toddlers then, back in 2,000 years ago at Jesus' time. We were in loincloths and swimming at the beach. Now we're developing incredible technologies, and for us it's incredible technologies, and we communicate very complex ways and very intricate ways, and so they've been able to deliver the information, probably a lot of information that was delivered at that time in a similar information, but in a incredibly expanded way, and have been able to take it to the nth degree because we have the capacity now to take that information on and assimilate it. Do you think that's accurate?
I think you've just basically answered the question, why is the book here now?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's an excellent way to explain why the book is here now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It strikes me, and it's another thing again when people are unwilling to consider or explore ideas that might be presented, because a lot of this information that we receive from ancient texts or Qurans or Bibles or written on stone tablets in Egyptian pyramids, unless it's from back then, it's not authentic. It's like, if anything's if we're receiving information now, it can't be authentic or real, because no, it doesn't happen anymore. It only happened back in biblical days when fire was shooting out of people's hands and these things. But why not?
Exactly.
Now if humanity's ready for it, if we're at a stage in our evolutionary cycle, if you will, our spiritual journey and our physical journey, if we're ready for it, when they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will come, or the teacher will appear.
Yeah.
I think that is spot on, and I think that's descriptive of what we're dealing with here in terms of the Urantia book and with terms of this information coming out now.
Absolutely.
Did you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was well put. Yeah.
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 Okay, I'm going to shut up again. Please continue.
I think I'd just like to say something.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is true, and I think the Urantia book, the timing of it, it's basically for the next age, What they're doing now is, I think they're doing a smart thing, is they're putting teachers and study groups together. So people are reading it, they're getting a good foundation, a good basis of an expanded revelation, and in preparation for possibly the next 100, 200 years.
Yeah.
I think, like you were saying, when the Bible came along, people read it, but it was pretty effective for the next 2,000 years or close to it. And now we've got something else which is added to that.
Yeah. No, good.
So
excellent.
we won't see the benefits for quite a while yet.
And these, celestial types, I have this inkling that, they do everything in thousands of years. We measure our span of time in, what time we have, 60, 70, 80 years tops.
Oh, exactly.
If you don't have a lifespan to worry about, you can introduce these things in the matter of millennia rather than...
I think we try and cram too much into one life,
we
I
really
think.
are. Yeah. It's a case in point of my lifetime. We won't get into that, but yeah, absolutely. So let's continue on, please. By all means, we're talking about the plan for ascending.
Yeah, we got up to the super universe level of
That's
of the
right.
ascension
Trillions.
plan.
We're talking
We're
trillions.
talking about inhabited worlds, how many there are. We sort of got off topic in that we suddenly started talking about how many inhabited worlds there are.
Yeah.
But that is actually the path that we do take. In terms of training. We stop on the headquarters worlds of each of those levels to do further more and more training. Once we're finished the super universe level, we go to the central universe. And the central universe is called Havona. It is a created universe outside of time and space. Okay, it is.
If I'm going cross-eyed, my brain.
No, that's right. That's all right. That's all right. It's not a time creation the way the super universes are.
Okay.
It's an eternal creation, the same as the Paradise Trinity, without beginning or end. So the next phase of our ascension program is to go through this universe and experience it's really hard to explain what happens there because I don't really understand it myself, but
No.
it sounds pretty awesome. I would totally suggest reading that part. And after that, you find your way to the eternal Isle of Paradise, which we spoke about before, which is the residence of the Paradise Trinity, and the order in which we discover or learn to I'm not sure what the word would be. Learn to
Recognize.
That's the word. Yeah. The order would be the infinite spirit we recognize first, then the eternal Son, and then finally we're embraced by the universal Father. And that, as I said before, is our destiny and our goal. Once that happens, though, it's not over. We still have eternity to deal with. We're
dealing with it.
That's right.
Slowly.
we're incorporated after we're embraced by the Universal Father and the Paradise Trinity. We're incorporated into what's called the core of the finaliters.
Okay.
That's what they call it. It's not my name. And members of the core are currently serving in various capacities all throughout the super universes, all 7 of the super universes. Our final destiny is unknown. There's a lot of speculation within the book itself, but they figure that our destiny has something to do with new. We haven't talked about this yet, but new parts of the universe that are being created at this time, and they figure that our destiny has something to do with these. They're called outer space levels. Okay. Which exist beyond the super universes.
We can deal with that. We can spend 5 hours on that.
And that's actually what we're coming up to.
Okay.
So,
just a note as well, a small note, just to throw another spanner in the works, but we're talking about the idea of ascending, as in moving from the bottom to the top.
That's right.
But I believe that the journey can be the other way as well, can't it? Because beings or entities or whatever you want to call them can experience a descending path as in they come from the top and work their way downwards and then maybe travel back up. Is that a possibility as well?
There's a couple of orders of beings, I guess is the way to explain it. We belong to an order of beings called ascending sons of God. Okay, and based on the whole ascension plan that I've just described, it's pretty easy to understand why we're called ascending sons of God, because that's what we do. We ascend towards God. Descending sons of God are created beings, and their job, well, in relation to us, their job is basically to reveal God to us.
Yeah, help us out.
Okay.
But they can exist at exactly the same time as you or I are existing right now.
Oh, they're there right now.
Right, on the planet.
I have no doubt that there's a
People
few
of flesh
watching
and
us right
bone
now.
or beings incarnated on this planet looking like us who are all cut down here to help.
This planet is absolutely chock full of celestial personalities, and we'll get into exactly why after we talk about the structure of the universe. But I have no doubt that this room right here that we're in right now is probably host to a few.
What do you think, Peter? Yeah?
Absolutely, yes, I agree.
And it goes above and beyond that which we can sense with our eyes. For instance, this idea of, even we did a show a few weeks back talking about quantum physical realities and the potentials being discovered by scientists, and the idea of dimensional realities. There is the dimensional existence that we inhabit, and there are other dimensions above and beyond that which we can sense. Doesn't mean they're not real. That just means that we haven't figured out how to understand it yet.
That's right. We're at the bottom.
We're at
We've
the
got
bottom
so
working
much so much to learn, and so much experience and knowledge to acquire yet.
I just had an image in my mind in a playpen with children in nappies playing with blocks, and it really does appear like that's where that's the scale we're at the moment. Well, that's the
us.
point of the scale at the
That
moment.
is absolutely us.
I think that's how I relate it, is the Earth's like a kindergarten,
Yeah.
and we're all just
Except
learning
we-
to get on together.
Except
and,
they gave us guns and
Yeah, that's-
flamethrowers.
yeah, that's right, yeah.
Those kindergartens are a little
yeah,
rough.
it's rather dangerous kindergarten. Yeah. We all have to graduate one day.
To keep us all on here. Good. Sorry, it's 12:15. We're zooming. I told you this time was just
Wow.
going to zoom on
Okay.
through. We got to move on. So shall
Well-
we switch now, or shall we?
Sure.
Okay.
We've already sort of, through the Ascension plan itself, spoken a little bit about the structure of the universe.
Okay.
Maybe if we'll just clarify it a little bit and then go on to the
By all
the next
means,
thing.
let's do it.
So basically, we have the created universe. Do you want to do some of this?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
We'll
okay.
let Peter do some. 'Cause
Absolutely.
I've been
Silent night over here.
I'm sitting here watching everything. I'm rather impressed. Yeah, I think with the a few points there. I think when we're talking about the universal Father, we're talking about the Creator, and He's the one uncaused cause in the universe.
Say that again. The what?
The only one uncaused cause in the universe.
That's a very, very interesting way to put it. We could discuss those few words that you put together in a sentence for the next.
Yes.
The one uncaused
cause.
because we live in a universe where we suspect of cause and effect.
Well, He's the Father of
beginning
all,
of it, right.
so He is the Creator of everything.
He was the original
He is the original.
and still the best.
So He's the Father. He's the one. He's the I am. So basically, when we're looking at the Son's a co-creator, but what the Father's done is very interesting. Is He's given out as much as He can to every other being in the universe. He's given away as much as He can of Himself to other people and other beings and other creators, all the way down to human beings. So in a sense, we're all creators too, but we're creatures. So we are ascending, but when we're talking about Jesus, we're talking about descending sons.
Yes.
Who are creators in their own right. So this whole universe is virtually a creation for it's a great training program for mortals on their eternal quest for the Father. Now, when we're talking about the universe structure, we're talking about the master universe. Now, this is quite interesting, and it's a little bit hard to grapple with, but
We've been grappling all night.
And
Go for it.
it's very very difficult. That's right. I think we'll start off with the eternal Isle of Paradise, which we have mentioned, where God lives, where the Father lives, and the Son lives, and the Infinite Spirit. And around the Isle of Paradise, we've got the central universe, which is heaven, or Havana, as we call it in the Urantia book. And then outside that, which we've mentioned, is the 7 super universes, which are all evolutionary, and they contain the 7 trillion planets. And everything in the universes, you can imagine this, everything is moving. Nothing is still.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that's still is the Isle of Paradise.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is in constant motion, including us. From the time we're born to the time we die, we're never still. Our minds, our bodies, everything is moving. So we've got these 7 super universes, of which we are a part of a 7th super universe. But
We're number 7, aren't we?
We're number
Us in
7.
particular.
Yeah.
Does that mean we're the last in line? We're the latest?
No.
No.
They're all created at the same time.
Okay.
They're not completed though.
Okay, ever expanding, huh?
No, they're not ever expanding, but they're evolutionary. Everything in the universe evolves.
Okay.
Like for example, what I mean by not completed is like our system, for example. A system contains 1,000 worlds.
Yeah.
Our system right now has 619 worlds.
Oh, okay, right.
So it's not completed
They
yet.
haven't reached
But
that full dozen
yeah,
yet.
so once it gets to the full dozen, the 1,000 worlds, then our system will be complete.
Yeah.
And the super universes in that way are not complete yet as well.
Okay, all right,
Yeah,
understood.
so, yeah, they're-
Please continue, Peter. Sorry,
Okay.
yeah.
So if we've got the 7 super universes,
Mhm.
which surround the Isle of Paradise and heaven, which is in constant motion in a big circle around the Isle of Paradise. Outside that, we have outer space levels, which are, I can't remember the figures, but it's big.
Okay.
It's
massive,
huge.
absolutely massive.
Here I thought outer space was, beyond our orbit, but you're talking about outer space outside of
Well,
the creation of which we realise now exists over
yeah,
7 trillion
yeah,
planets.
we're
Out there is outer space.
we're talking, I don't know, millions of light years.
You can think of the universe up to the borders of this super universe as the inhabited universe,
And beyond that,
and beyond that is as I
uninhabited.
was saying, still being mobilized and created
by the Father of all.
by God and the celestial personalities who do those things. We're not going to get into all the different personalities, but you can read about every one of
But
these
if he's
personalities.
but
in
if
the book.
he's
Yeah.
existing eternally and the only uncaused cause, hasn't everything been created? If
In
there's
his-
no time
for him, yes,
for us, we
because
haven't
there's no
realized it.
time. But there's reasons for it being done that I really don't think we should get into because it
No,
involves
we
a
won't. But I'm
much,
just
much more in-depth explanation of
my
the
brain is just
revelation of God.
tangentially traveling on its own. I can't
Yeah.
help it. I'm sorry. Just the words pop out of my mouth. But my 2 brain cells are being squeezed for all they're worth right now. Every ounce of my brain.
I think the Ascension plan basically is an evolutionary plan, that we are evolutionary beings and that we learn through experience, as opposed to creators, which exist, but they are already all wise and all knowing, whereas we have to gain wisdom through experience and knowledge.
I wouldn't discount you blokes, though. I mean, have you considered the possibility that you guys might be descending rather than ascending?
No, that's not
No.
the way it's set out. It's very clear.
Oh, yeah?
Descending sons of God are created beings. They come generally from the eternal Son, and they are bestowed upon the race.
Yes,
of
but
man.
if they...
Yeah.
What about ones that exist in... Isn't there ones that could take on a human body?
A human, yes, but that's only in very, very specific circumstances, and that's part of their own progress as beings, I guess you could
Yeah,
say.
exactly. But
Yeah.
why couldn't you
But
blokes... why
it's-
couldn't one of
it's-
us be one of those?
Why?
Yeah.
Because you'd know.
Really?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
I
What
think
if that?
it-
What
it
if
only-
that wasn't part
it
of your
only-
plan? What if that wasn't to do with your unfolding development as a descending mortal on this particular time frame? Maybe you weren't allowed to know everything.
Because the purpose of bestowing a descending son of God on the races of man, if you want to call it that way, or mortal man,
Okay.
is to expand their understanding and knowledge of God. And in order to do that, you have to know who you are.
Okay.
I put it to myself that if I need the Urantia book to understand these things, well, obviously I've got a long way to go.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So let's continue.
Yes.
Sorry. Continue on.
All right. Okay, so if we're talking about the outer space levels, if that doesn't blow your mind, well, there's
Too
four outer space levels.
4 outer space.
Four
levels.
outer space levels.
Okay.
Which are way beyond our comprehension.
And that's the full universe. It's called the master universe.
The master.
And all those outer space levels are uninhabited, so they're...
On the
As-
Urantia.org site, is there any illustration available on that site? I can't remember seeing.
Yes,
it.
I think there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's lots of videos, lots of pictures available.
These ideas and concepts are so much more easily digestible when they are
Sure.
accompanied sometimes by the
Yeah.
visual. And I've seen, as I mentioned to you blokes on another time, that I had seen some visual, especially a master universe map
Yep.
that was just brilliant. The illustration was magnificent and really helped to further characterize some of the ideas that...
I found a site last night actually, which is
Oh, yeah?
pretty fortuitous, I guess. It's called encyclopediaurantia.com.
Oh, okay.
It's either .com or .org. I didn't write it down.
Okay.
I bookmarked it, but basically the whole site is just pictures and diagrams to help illustrate the topics that we're talking about.
It's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
If you think
So-
it's complex enough, it's
Yeah.
being translated into about half a dozen languages already, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
and it's being translated into others. So that the problems they'd have, I mean, the translation, because
Mind-boggling enough.
Yeah.
All right, come on, let's keep going.
Okay, so that's basically the structure of the universe.
Great,
Yeah.
in a nutshell.
So, yeah.
And remember, folks out there, that we do have this program on the archive for 7 days, and we will make the copies available on DVD if you want to get a hand on it after the 7 days. But let's push on. We must push on. Where are we going next, gentlemen? In
Well,
this,
I think we're going to concentrate on Urantia for the rest of the time on our planet.
Okay.
And why it's such a troubled planet.
yeah, these are good questions to ask. Might I take a quick? We're going to do one more break
Sure,
before we do
yeah.
that. So I'm just going to give you the lowdown again, folks. 107.9 FM Radio Fremantle, the source. Benjamin with you. Special guests Derek and Peter speaking about the Urantia book, an incredible piece of cosmology, a work of amazing information. So we're gonna play these ads, and we'll be back after this.
107.9.
Simply the best.
107.9.
The station your neighbors listen to, whether they want to or not.
Is your computer running slowly? Are you having trouble removing a virus? Or do you need help connecting to the internet? Call AAA Mobile Computer Repairs on 0405 527 932. We understand how important your computer is. AAA Mobile Computer Repairs 0405 527 932. AAA, helping you all the way. Proud sponsors of Radio Fremantle.
Hilton Plumbing is a family-run business which prides itself on a good quality professional service with over 100 years combined industry experience. Station sponsor Hilton Plumbing is a long-standing member of the Master Plumbers Association. Some of our services include general household maintenance, supply and installation of gas and electric hot water units, and plumbing to household renovations. With 15 fully equipped vehicles, we are ready for all your plumbing needs. HiltonPlumbing.com.au is our website, or call us on 9455 2237 for help with plumbing. Remember, HP, Hilton Plumbing.
Hello, my darlings. This is Amanda Muggleton. I love listening to Radio Fremantle 107.9 FM.
107.9 FM, Radio Fremantle, The Source. Benjamin back with you. Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm having a lot of fun tonight with very special guests here, Peter and Derek, who have very kindly come in to speak about a fascinating topic, dealing with the Urantia book. Just give you the information again one more time. If you do want to message us in here on the radio station, it's best to email. I'm receiving emails. I'm getting my email under control here. I'm sorry if we don't get to answer all of the questions tonight. I do apologize, but we'll hopefully, if these gentlemen agree, come back again and do it again, and we'll maybe answer some questions there. The email source 107.9fm at hotmail.com. That's source107.9fm@hotmail.com. That's the best way to send your information. The Urantia information, it's, what is it again, Derek or Peter? It's urantia.org, is it?
Urantia.org, yes. That's the foundation site.
That's the best one to start, isn't it? Because they answer a lot of questions.
It does, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, definitely.
Urantia.org. And maybe we'll just do a quick plug now. Did you want to give mobile number? Did you want to give that one?
We've actually got a website for our local study group.
Please, let's give that.
It's all one big huge word. It's Perth Urantia Book Studygroup.com. All one big word.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
And that's our website, and it gives contact information for anybody who might want to email us and ask us questions, or if they'd like to join us in our study groups.
Great.
Yeah.
One more time. What is it again?
Perth Urantia Book Studygroup.com. All one big word.
Okay. Yeah. Perth Urantia
Book
Studygroup.
Studygroup.com.
That's it. You heard it here. Okay. So let's continue on. We've got half an hour left. I've just been getting some comments here on the email. Some really nice things. People are. Some people said this is going to take me a while. One person's going to ask for that DVD already. That's fine. I'd be happy to burn a CD, and we'll try and get it on. Also, if we can't get it on after the archives are finished for the 7 days, I'm going to try and see if I can put it on the Abundant Hope site. So I'll give you more information about that. Let's continue on. We've got the half an hour left. We had too many topics that we still haven't covered, but we've decided on one, gentlemen, is it? We're going to just cover, we're going to talk a bit about this figure, Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The one other topic that we wanted to speak about really quickly was the Lucifer Rebellion.
Which one do you want to do first?
Well, we're going to have to skip that one, unfortunately, but just to...
Well, you guys going to come back? Can you maybe...
Sure, we'd be happy to come back.
We would love to have you guys on again if you're willing to do that. We'll work out another time.
Sure, but for anyone who's interested in pursuing that, the book is online as well.
It is online. Can we mention that? I was going to mention that, and great you brought that up, because you can have a look at this book, can't you?
Yes,
you don't need to. It's not a difficult to find
archaic The foundation has an online version of the book at their website, urantia.org. Truthbook.com has a link to the online version, and squarecircles.com has a PDF version that you can download.
Terrific.
Yeah, so I mean, if you want to find out about this stuff before we come back to talk about it more,
formulate
feel
questions.
Free.
Yeah. So visit that up. Okay, we're gonna head off now to Jesus Christ. Is that right?
Definitely.
Let's do it now. Now, for all the people out there who are familiar with Jesus Christ, this information may be controversial. I do hope. That's one of the reasons you listen to the radio program. But here we go. Let's begin. So where are we going to start with Jesus Christ?
Well, Jesus is one of the descending sons of God. He's a creation of the eternal Son. He's of the eternal Son, and in the super universes, I guess you could say he is the eternal Son, because the eternal Son doesn't leave paradise. So,
except he left paradise.
The eternal Son didn't leave paradise.
No, but Jesus did.
Jesus is he's what's called a creator son.
Okay. Right. To do with this Michael son you talked about earlier.
Michael's son or creator son. Yeah, his name is Michael.
Okay.
He is the creator of our local universe, which, as we talked about before,
was the system constellation local universe.
Right. 100
Mm.
million local worlds.
Well,
inhabited worlds.
He's one of many creator sons.
Yes.
He is our creator son.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So even though there's a paradise father, who is the creator of everything because he is everything, the one who's in charge of this particular little section of our universe of universes is the Michael son.
Yes.
So he in particular created us.
Yes.
So he would be our
He's
God,
our father.
so to speak.
Well, no.
No.
No. I wouldn't go that far. He even when he was here, he was asking us to worship the universal Father, not himself.
Okay.
We pray to Jesus, but we worship the Father.
And that's one of the things we'll get into when we're talking about his teachings.
Sorry, go on, yes.
So, the reasons for him coming here, I think we talked about one of them before already, is the sons of God, the descending sons of God, are bestowed upon the individual planets. And the purpose of that is to enable evolving man to make real to them the love of the Father and the mercy of the Son. It makes it real for them because
tangible.
Tangible, yeah, that's a good word. Yeah, yeah. He also came to our planet specifically to terminate the Lucifer rebellion, and I'm sorry we don't have time to talk about that. It's
we
actually
will.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And we were talking about incarnation and how it's losing my words here, but part of it, he created our local universe, but he doesn't have immediately absolute sovereignty over that universe. The universal Father requires of him to experience what it is to live for each level of his created creatures.
So in order for him to be chief of his section, he needs to go through a series of tests, if you would.
He has to experience what it is for his creatures that he has created, what it is for them to live. He has to know.
So he has to have the proper experience to have the job description, basically.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah. Trying to create an idea. No, you can see. You see the hierarchy now. There's like a descending order and an ascending order, and in order to inhabit a role, you need to be properly prepared for that role. As any human corporation or any association in any kind of thing would have to be. You need to know what you're doing before you get the role, and that's part of the idea of getting to know what you have to do.
Well, I think he's come onto the floor as a worker. What he's done is he's a father, but by experiencing incarnations as a mortal, he's also our brother.
Yes, and the Father is the universal Father. So he's our Father, but he's our creator brother.
So it's kind of almost like a mid-level manager rather than the top of the tree.
I don't know if I like that analogy. But yeah. He's our creator. Okay. And through him we go to the Father. It's
a tough one. That my brain cells are struggling with those ones. But
that's all right.
Okay.
That's
it might be something to flesh out a bit later on.
Yeah, we can extrapolate further. Okay, continue, please.
So, speaking of Christianity, the Urantia book tells us, well, as we said before, the last third of the book is basically a detailed description of his life and his teachings and exactly what happened. It goes through his life year by year. It gives dates. It gives dates.
It's a third of the book, right?
Yeah, specific dates like Wednesday, the 3rd of June, for example. Like it actually tells the day, and people a lot smarter than myself have gone back using computers and whatnot to actually check those dates using the calendar shifts and everything, and they're spot on. Absolutely amazing. And this book was written in 1935.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's just incredible. Even if you're not entirely sure of what you're hearing, it's worth a look by all means. Yeah. Okay.
That's right.
So go on. Yeah.
It should be remembered that even though he did live here and was bestowed upon this earth, he lived it for every creature in his created universe, not just us. So some of the things that he said might have been confusing to people, but if you look at it in the perspective of his whole created universe, all of the worlds, it makes a little bit more sense sometimes. So that's something that you have to keep in mind because
Okay.
we're very earth-centric in our thinking.
Very much.
Yeah.
We
Still
like to
now.
think we're somehow the only things,
Yeah.
created ever in the entire history of the universe.
But that's evolving. I mean, science is teaching us that we're not the center of the universe. I mean, we've all accepted that we revolve around the sun.
Though I am
it's-
the center of my wife's universe, at least that's what I like to think.
Well done. Well done.
At least you've achieved something then.
It discusses in great detail his family life with Joseph and Mary and his 8 brothers and sisters.
8
8 brothers and
brothers and
sisters.
sisters. I don't think they mentioned them really in the Bible, do
James is known. He was the head of the Jerusalem church after Jesus died. I believe he's known as James the Just.
they? Mm-hmm.
He was Jesus's next in line brother. Jesus was the oldest.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think his other siblings really are that well known,
No,
but
but they were involved.
of course,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely, yeah. So I mean, the whole story of his family is in there, and it's actually quite touching and very inspiring.
You don't happen to have any excerpts at all on hand at the moment, do you? That we might have because I'm curious because it's my understanding that the way it's written, as you mentioned, it's almost chronological. They really do
It
go
is
into
year
some
by year,
depth.
year by year.
But it's
Yeah.
not. It's not like, for instance, like the Bible was written in allegory and
No.
parables. It's literally like a step by step. He went there. He said this. He
That's
did
right.
that.
Yeah.
And this happened. And it's not like
And it's written by people who are actually there.
right.
Yeah.
Right. You don't
Which
have
is just-
anything. You don't. I'm putting you on the spot.
Well,
it's okay. We move on.
So some of the stuff about his teachings and stuff, I will be paraphrasing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
sorry. Go on. Yeah.
Yeah, because if I were to look it up in the book, it'd take like
No,
about
of
10
course,
minutes.
of course. Yes.
It details what happened to Joseph. Like, I mean, after Jesus was in the temple with the temple priests,
Mm-hmm.
nobody hears of Joseph anymore, and it tells exactly what happened to Joseph. He was actually killed in a construction accident when Jesus was 14.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Okay.
so as the eldest
Construction
son,
accident.
well, he graduated. He actually was quite successful in his enterprises. He was at first a carpenter, and expanded his business into construction. And
Oh.
he was actually killed in a construction accident.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's quite
You
devastating.
think
to
he'd
the
get a little
family.
bit more protection being, associated as he was with the, I don't know.
No protection like
No
that.
special treatment.
No. But as the eldest son, Jesus actually became head of the family,
Okay.
and in some respects the father, and that gave him the experience of actually raising a family. Because one of the mandates of him actually coming to Earth was that he couldn't have children of his own, and have like a master race of divine beings or anything like that.
Right, of course. That
But,
would really throw the whole evolutionary thing for a spin.
But this gave him an unbelievable opportunity to experience raising a family.
Yeah.
And the description of how he so unbelievably and patiently administered to his siblings and his mother is just unbelievably touching.
Mm.
Yeah. I totally recommend reading that.
Yeah, yeah.
The whole thing, yeah, definitely. But then it talks about the period of what they call Jesus' personal ministry, as opposed to his public ministry.
Okay,
His
what's the difference?
Personal ministry was a 2-year period where he joined a caravan that was traveling the Mediterranean region, and he went along with them as an interpreter, and was able to meet all kinds of people from all over the known world at the time, and just really find out exactly who they were, what they thought about things, and it was on a one-to-one individual and personal basis.
Okay.
And an interesting side note is that through these personal contacts, he was actually able to sow a lot of seeds. Which,
You're not talking about agriculture here.
No. These seeds actually assisted in the spread of his teachings once the apostles found their way into these areas.
Okay.
Yeah. and it explains that whole story as well.
And you
Absolutely.
mentioned as well, as the descending son,
Yes.
he was fully cognizant from day one of his.
Not day one. No, it was a process.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He had to do what all of us have to do. We have to learn to commune with our father fragment.
Okay.
And through his increased ability to do so, he became aware
Okay.
of his divine nature.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, sorry. So many questions. I'm just
No,
go
yeah,
on.
shoot. Yeah, that's fine.
Continue. No, I'm just
Okay.
thinking. So there's not a time frame. I mean, when the time is right, they come into their divine realization, so to speak, of their nature and their quality as a being of a divine universe. So it's not, like I said, it's not from day one. It's at a time and a place of, I'm sure they plan this out, this when they say, I'm going to incarnate and I'm going to do this, and they decide on how it's going to go and when it's going to kind of happen. So they would get to a point of realization, and from that on they would begin a ministry, a personal and a public. Is that kind of how it works for descending
Well,
sons?
he was incarnate. He was human as well, so he still had to do the work. And if he didn't do the work, he would never get that communion with his adjuster.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So no, because I was under the impression from what we'd spoken a little earlier, you suggested that, like I said,
Yeah.
maybe you guys could be the same. No, we're not, because we would know it. But maybe you just haven't progressed to the level of that realization yet. I mean, it's a possibility. We're talking about open minds here.
Good one. Good one.
You never know. You never know.
No, that's true. No, yeah.
So
Yeah.
continue.
It talks about Mount Hebron, which is a kind of pivotal part in his life. His visit there was, I guess, it had two purposes. The first was to complete his task of actually achieving full communion with his father fragment.
Okay.
Okay, and so as the human Jesus, that was his goal.
Mhm.
That was what he was here to do and to achieve, was full communion with his father fragment.
Okay. Yeah.
And he was there for 40 days on that mountain, and that's when he was able to fully achieve this communication with his father fragment.
Okay.
The other purpose for him being there was to confront Lucifer and Satan and terminate this Lucifer rebellion,
Okay.
which he did as a man. He did it as a man, not as their creator. He did it as a man, which has unbelievable depth of meaning.
Oh yeah,
and
the
connotation.
ramifications
Yeah.
are huge.
Yeah.
So he did that before he got to that point, before or after? Because he became.
This
his
was
public-
after he returned. This was just a little bit
Before
before,
the public
he
ministry?
started his public ministry.
So he did all that before he actually went public.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he did
This
his
is
private
before his
ministry
baptism
and
as well.
dealt with the Lucifer rebellion and all the connotations of
Yeah.
what went with that before he even got famous, so to speak.
Got famous. Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to
No,
say?
I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So he dealt with that.
Yeah.
I'm so desperate to go into that idea of the Lucifer rebellion because that's a huge one.
Yeah.
But no, let's continue with his life.
I know what you mean.
I think his mission on Earth was virtually finished then.
It was finished then.
It was finished then. He didn't have to stay.
Okay, so after that, it was do as you will kind of thing. Your main reason for being here is done.
Yes, yeah. He'd achieved what he came here to do, and it was at that point that he virtually asked the Father, and the Father said, and he said to the Father, "Look, what do you want me to do?" And he virtually just left it up to the Father.
Okay. Does it go into the 40-day, 40-night scenario in the Urantia book as
That's
well?
what I was just talking about on Mount Hebron.
Okay, that was the 40-day,
40.
40-night. I'm sorry, my references
That's all right.
are
Yeah.
foggy. I haven't got into there very much.
So his public ministry, what he actually taught, which is a really, really important part of the whole Urantia book, basically, is his fundamental teaching was the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. And that's it. Everything is based on that.
All right, well, you're going to have to give me a little more
God
than
is
that. What is
father,
that?
God is the father of all,
Mm-hmm.
and we were all siblings. And I'm not just talking about people here on Earth. I'm talking about in all of the universes. We're all ultimately created by God through his different, descending orders of sons.
Would you add anything to that, Peter, about this idea of what exactly is meant by those two conditions? I think that seems to be fairly accurate.
It is. I think it's a hard concept to really grapple with.
Yeah.
I'd say that
it is.
Yeah. Well,
This universal brotherhood of man idea is
Yes.
not. Maybe it is, but I think it's been around for quite some time, and not just
Sure.
through the Urantia book. And I think it's a logical, a reasonable assumption.
Yep.
If you can look beyond bigotry and racism and these kind of superficial
Yeah.
separations, which are, here and there, it's a grey area. It's not really a good reason to, But I think these ideas are fairly reasonable, and
I think they've been around for a long time, but I think it's put into a new package now, and it's more an expanded package.
Yeah. Back then, when he was actually preaching this, it was unbelievably radical.
yeah, I can't quite imagine how it was back then.
For us, with 20 centuries of Christian thought and theology based on his sort of based on his teachings, it's not as radical to us.
No.
But back then, pretty mind blowing.
Yeah.
They killed him.
Yeah. They did.
Yeah.
We all heard about that bit. We were reminded of that bit. Okay, great.
But he taught that the religion is, and this is really important, religion is a personal relationship with the universal Father. And the connotations of that is there is no need for a go-between between the individual and the Father, because the Father literally indwells each of us.
That is huge. That is a really pivotal point.
So we don't need anybody to tell us what God is saying, because all we have to do is learn to communicate with him through our Father fragment, and we get all the answers ourselves.
And I think our spiritual life is 7 days a week, 24/7.
That's right.
It doesn't rely on a church. It doesn't rely on...
It doesn't turn on and off.
No.
There's not a Sunday, need for a Sunday service or anything. It's there 24/7.
Yep,
whether you realize it or not, whether you want it or not.
Yep.
Your spiritual self is infinite as well, isn't
and
it?
your highest ideals, your moral thoughts.
I think even possibly more than the universal brotherhood, fatherhood of God idea. I think this one, more than any, is an aspect which will change the history of mankind, or humankind on this planet at least. I think, if I can insert that just for a moment, that the simple idea that a lot of people have is that they are quite this separation. We live in a world of separation. Our existence is separation from everything else. And that idea in itself really tears that apart, that there is no separation. There's no need for mediators, intermediaries, anyone in between, or anything in order to make us connect with the source of where we came from.
Sure.
And I think if this realization is really assimilated by people, I think it would really change the way in which they act, the way in which they think, what inspires them, what moves them, their desires and their modalities of thought. Do you think that's fairly accurate?
No, I think so.
That one might be.
Yeah, I think at the moment there's a lot of there's an ideological struggle going on around the world. The nationalism is such a strong element of society these days. Whether it's
patriotism,
patriotism. Whether it's the tribe, the community, the group, the state, the nation. There's wars everywhere. Whether it's in the courtroom, the boardroom, or sports, or people fighting over territory. It seems to be obsessing the world at the moment, and I think that this is part of what's going to happen in the future. Once we've got over this hurdle at the moment, I think that's when this message will start getting through to people.
Huge one. Okay, please, Derek, go on.
Go on. Okay. I guess we could talk about Peter for a second, because that's a very significant event.
We've got
yeah, I know.
6-7 minutes.
Can see, yeah.
Are we getting through the crux of what you wanted to speak about?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Sorry. Continue.
Peter actually, on the day of Pentecost, he made a pretty big error, a bit of a blunder, which has colored Christianity ever since. In his bliss, I guess you could say, or his excitement at receiving the Spirit of truth on the day of Pentecost, he inadvertently changed the message of the kingdom that Jesus had been preaching, the fatherhood of God, or the brotherhood of man, from the religion of Jesus, what he was preaching, to the religion about Jesus.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So he started preaching the glorified and resurrected Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what Jesus ever taught anybody. I mean, he was teaching, the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the apostles actually followed this lead, with the notable exception of Nathaniel, who, after a period of arguing with the other apostles, went into the east, into Mesopotamia, and taught the gospel as he saw fit. But that pretty much colored Christianity from that day onwards, and changed the message.
Mm.
Paul is huge in Christianity. He's, to give him his
Paul is
his
Saul
credit.
of Tarsus? Is
Yes,
that the one we're
Paul,
talking
the
about?
apostle.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was an amazing teacher. He's actually credited in the Rancha book with being one of the 7 outstanding teachers of human history. So, he did good stuff, but, he followed and compounded this error of Peter because he didn't know any better.
Yeah.
He did build one of the most progressive societies on Urantia, seen to that point. And he did make this new subset of the Jewish religion available to a much wider group, the Gentiles. That was his doing. And he had huge fights with James and the leaders of James, the brother of Jesus, who was the leader of the Jerusalem church. They had huge fights about this because the Jerusalem church thought that you should be Jewish in order to be part of all of this.
You mean Pharisees? Are you talking about the Pharisees?
No, not Pharisees. I'm talking about the pre-Christian church in Jerusalem.
Okay.
And the leader of that church was James.
Okay.
Paul was going around to all kinds of different places preaching his understanding of this new religion based on Jesus, the glorified and resurrected Jesus. And there was huge fights about whether Gentiles should be included or not.
Okay.
It's a fascinating history, but he basically was able to open this all up to people who were not Jewish as well.
Okay.
So, he can be credited with a lot. But, much of what is in Christianity these days is not what Jesus preached.
No.
Like I said before, Jesus founded a religion of personal experience in doing the will of God and serving the human brotherhood. But Paul founded a religion which glorified Jesus, in which a glorified Jesus became the object of worship, and the brotherhood consisted only of fellow believers in this divine Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than a human brotherhood, it's just the people who believe exactly what's being taught. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a huge change,
Mm-hmm.
So I guess another way to say it is, while the human Jesus was recognized as having a religion, the divine Jesus, Christ, almost overnight became a religion.
Yeah.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, of course, made a religion of the man rather than the teachings that he proposed.
But
which,
the last point that I want to make, and it's really important, and I'm actually going to read this so I don't make a mistake.
Okay.
It almost wholly lost this new religion about Jesus. It almost wholly lost sight of the struggling and valiant human Jesus of Galilee, who by the valor of his personal religious faith and the heroism of his indwelling father fragment ascended from the lowly levels of humanity to become one with divinity, because he was able to communicate with his father fragment, thus becoming the new and living way whereby all mortals may so ascend from humanity to divinity. He showed us the way to do all this. Mortals in all stages of spirituality and on all worlds may find in the personal life of Jesus that which will strengthen and inspire them as they progress from the lowest spirit levels up to the highest divine values. And that's what's missing in Christianity today, because we're so focused on the risen and glorified Christ that nobody's concentrating on his personal life and what he was trying to show us by living that life. And that's one of the huge messages in this book.
And it's a huge message of his life, and it's one that I hope that more people visit there with the Urantia book and discover more about that. As you mentioned, there's a third of the book at least to dealing with that particular man and his experiences and what he did. We have minutes, moments, closing thoughts, closing ideas, gentlemen. Derek, Peter, anything else you want to add for the moment? Like I said, I'd love to have you back, so we will do this again.
Sure.
Maybe we can just give the information one more time. We really are squeezing our limit of time here. So maybe we'll give the links one more time. Your website and the website they should visit for more information.
Our website, as I said before, is PerthUrantiaBookStudyGroup.com, all one big word, PerthUrantiaBookStudyGroup.com. And the Urantia Foundation, publishers of the book, is urantia.org.